Moved to Kentucky for fire service. Buy 10 square miles of hilly forest with home at an auction. Old owner lived there his whole life. Died on the land. Family sold it to make a quick buck. Start planting more trees. The forest is dense but could use more around the house. Put up trail cams because homeless wanderers coming onto property. Something is getting angry and ripping down my trail cams from behind, including ones high up in trees. Find piles of them in tree hollows. Grab shotgun and camp supplies. Head out to find homeless men and persuade them to leave the property. Can't find anyone. Only tiny four-toed prints in the mud by the streams. Think it's a raccoon, but spacing makes me think it was standing up. Make camp and hunker down. Cook up some tasty rabbit stew. Get into tent and go to sleep before cleaning pot because of how tired I am. Wake up around 3 in the morning, moon shining through trees. Hear weird grunting noises from outside a tent. Sound small. Open up window flap. Stew pot is swinging, but I can't see anything near it except for a mossy rock about the size of a gallon jug that I didn't notice before. Think nothing of it. Go back to sleep. Wake up. Go over to stew pot to cook some breakfast. Stew pot has been licked clean. Mossy rock is gone. Think raccoons must have cleaned it in the middle of the night, and the rock was the fat lump that did it. Pack up. Search some more. Can't find anyone, but swear the moss around me is alive. Notice that rocks seem to be moving whenever I look away from them. No sense of dread, just bewilderment. In this search somewhere, I lost my knife that I've had for a while. It's cheap, but has a lot of sentimental value to me. Get home, tired and bummed out from not finding anyone and losing my knife. Go to sleep immediately. Wake up to light knocking at my door. Get up kinda groggy and open the door, eyeing where I keep my gun just in case. Peek through the window. No one is there. Grab shotgun, in case it was someone visiting their new neighbor. No one. Only forest noises, and the occasional butterfly. Step through door to feel my foot kick something. Look down. My knife is laying there on a small bed of flowers and grass. Look around, really confused but happy that someone found my knife, and then angry that someone was on my property and watching me. Shout out as loud as I can a quick thanks, and if they're out there, to come see me so I can talk to them. Notice around 3 rocks, all around the size and shape of a jug of milk, in a row just on the border of the forest. Pick up knife and walk back inside. Glance outside. Rocks are gone. I buy a border collie when I go into town that day. I have more stories about these things if anyone wants to hear about them. Okay, about a month later since finding my knife on my porch, planting more trees, working some land to make a small garden. Pupper, named Hugo, is walking around sniffing things, doing puppy stuff. While tilling, I notice 2 rocks on the edge of the forest. Think nothing of it. They don't bother me, and I don't bother them. Kind of getting used to it, and expecting them by now, to be honest. I don't feel angry. Hugo doesn't seem to mind them. Start getting really into my garden. Lose track of time, and look up to find Hugo, to take him inside with me for a break. Hugo is gone. I'm freaking out because I love the little guy. I look around frantically to see him at the edge of the forest sniffing one of the rocks. The rock he's sniffing shifts a little when his nose gets too close. I get up to run over to Hugo to keep him from getting hurt or something in case the rock tips over on him. That's when I see the moss on the rock shift and sprout out a tiny, spindly little arm. I stop walking for a second and blink to make sure I'm not seeing something. It's hot and humid, and I haven't been drinking as much water as I should. Arm continues to extend slowly and tentatively towards Hugo, recoiling a little whenever Hugo's nose touches it. I start back up, a little cautiously to not spook the rock thing. I'm getting nearer to Hugo, about 50 yards away, and see that it's petting Hugo's head. Hugo is wagging his tail, and generally seems to be enjoying it. I get about 10 yards away from them. I step on a twig and make a loud noise. The creature's arm shoots back into the body, and the rock starts tumbling frantically away. Hugo runs after them. I run after Hugo. I lose sight of Hugo, and search for him until nightfall. I go back to my house to grab a flashlight and my camping gear to find my pupper. As I'm getting closer, I see a white and black lump on my porch. I start running towards my house, and as I get closer, I see that it's Hugo. He's laying on my porch, not moving. I'm getting more upset as I get closer. I see red and pink around his head and neck. I start sprinting, thinking my dog is hurt or dead. I get 10 feet away, about to bound up onto the porch, when Hugo's head jerks up and looks at me. He stands up and comes to greet me with a slobbering mouth, clearly happy to see me. He has a little crown of red and pink flowers around his head and neck, and has a rope tied to his collar on my door. I hug him, tears kinda welling up, because I've come to love the pupper so much. Stand up. Shout a thank you to whoever brought him home. Go in and go to sleep. I've been on this property now for about 4 years, and have a lot more stories about them, if people are interested. I've gotten very close to them. I'm trying to build up my trust with the little things. About a year later, I keep seeing the rocks around my house, and they're getting closer and closer. Notice one is living in my garden now. Little different from the others, greenish gray, and very round, almost spherical. Every now and then, I take a peek out the window and catch a glimpse of it moving around. Very slow and methodical. The garden has never looked more beautiful since it moved in. I go out to my garden often and see it on the opposite side from me all the time. Decide one day to go up to it and try to show it I mean it no harm. I am unsuccessful at this. It just tucks its arms and legs in whenever it sees me. Looks like a chubby sloth carved out of stone, but no mouth or nose. From what I can tell, it's just two beady little eyes. I decided to leave it alone. It seems to be helping me with the garden, and I appreciate that. Notice that sometimes some of my veggies will be gone, or half-eaten, and sitting by the stone. Let it have them. Leave some veggies near the edge of the forest. One day, notice that the stone is gone. Veggies are no longer being eaten. Garden is looking a little worse for wear. Stones are gone from the tree line. I'm genuinely sad that they're gone. About 2 weeks later, go into forest looking for them. Come to the middle of my property, where a massive tree has fallen. Was some kind of oak, possibly around 100 feet tall. When I get closer, I notice that there are dozens of stones on it and around it, all leaning on it, like they're kissing it or resting their heads on it. I'm overwhelmed with a sudden sense of sadness, almost like a family member died. I walk over to the tree and place my hand on it, whisper some sweet nothings to the stones. I go back home after spending almost 3 hours at the tree, feeling bereft of an old friend for some reason. Remember, I have a white oak sapling in my yard, outside of my house. Dig it up and take it to the bigger oak in the forest the next day with Hugo. Plant it next to the fallen oak so that it will replace the giant hole the older one had left. Hugo is walking around the stones. Catch a glimpse of a few petting him. A few days later, notice the stones are back at the edge of the forest. Garden stone is back, and everything looks lush and vibrant again. I have another notable story that was kind of scary. I'll type it out. I guess it's not really scary, but it does involve a crazy homeless guy. Go out into the forest one day with Hugo to look around for bums. Say hi to some friends, and just to be outdoors. Notice more and more signs of a homeless person living here. Trash everywhere, broken branches and plants, etc. Finally make it to where I think the guy is camping. Find a shelter and take it down, but nearly fold it for him so he can get off my property quickly. Starting to get dark. I'm a little worried that I missed him, or he's dead somewhere on my property. See someone moving deeper into the forest. Shout out to him to stop and talk to me. The guy has a pickaxe, so I keep my shotgun ready in case he gets violent. I see he's smashing something with it. Freaking out, thinking I just stumbled onto a killing. That's when I hear the unmistakable sound of rocks being smashed. I fire into the air and get his attention damn quick. He drops his pickaxe and puts his hands up, mumbling something unintelligible. My adrenaline is pumping, I'm shaking, and Hugo is going mad on his leash. I scream at him about smashing the rocks. He starts saying how they were following him and throwing stuff at him. I almost shot him then and there, but instead, I lead him at gunpoint to the edge of my property and told him to get out and never come back. A few days later, I get a call from the sheriff's office about a body they found near my property. Homeless guy beaten to death and stuffed into a tree. Tells me that there will be a deputy coming to talk to me. Deputy shows up an hour later, questions me about if I had any interactions with the homeless guy. Tell him no. He starts to leave. Turns around on my porch. Mentions my stone fence is a little low, but looks good. Look around. See the entire edge of the forest around my house is surrounded by stones. Tell him thanks and see him to his cruiser. He leaves. I go back to my house. All the stones are gone, except for 2. I've got a lot of small ones, like gifts and whatnot. They leave me flowers, sometimes more mushrooms, things I've lost, etc. I've been giving them about a third of my veggies, and they seem to like that. More and more show up in my yard, rather than my tree line, and only seem to move when they don't notice me there. They're very slow moving, and the only time I've ever seen them move quickly is when they roll. I have a lot more animals in my area now, and the forest and yard/garden are more lush and green when they're around. They seem to disappear during storms. I think they either go into tree hollows or patiently wait it out under the other kinds of cover. The garden rock likes to go into the small covered treeless I built for it when the rain comes. Never heard them speak, and I've only ever seen their faces a few times. It's just an oblong rock with beady black eyes that look like polished black glass. Very spindly arms and legs, but bony looking, but more vine-like. They tuck back onto the body and aren't noticeable. 4 toes and 3 fingers, and a thumb. Bodies are shaped like a bullet, and they're about the size of a gallon jug. The garden rock is more round though. Their head sits on the front of the body rather than on top, and kinda blends into it. The eyes are very widespread, almost parallel to each other, and about the size of a small marble. They are covered in moss, and can range from green to burgundy. I think that might indicate age, but I don't know. When they stand up and walk, they look hunched over, and they tend to waddle more than just walk, with its arms out. Like they're carrying something under them. There were a couple of things left in the house, like some personal documents, mostly health records. Other than that, I know the guy came from Holland, and that he built a house when he came over in the 50s. None of his family wanted the land. They just seemed to want to make some quick cash. I did let them spread his ashes in the forest though, because that's where he spent most of his time. With his wife, her ashes were also spread out here. According to their daughter, he seemed like a sweet old man. He liked woodcrafting, and I find some of his stuff here and there in the basement and the shop. I let the figure out that he made onto the porch, and the next day it was gone. Not sure if they took it, or if it was some other animal/vagrant passing through.